Diesel likes the hip hop orcs. Everyone laugh at it. I'd like to blame Max Landis for the orcs are black people stereotype that's occurred. I've seen people say things like, oh, you can't like Homelander as a character because that means you agree with his politics, right? Or you can't write a character that is a genocidal maniac because that means you agree with it, right? And those things are like really bad. That is how a lot of people engage with media, right? A writer writing something doesn't mean they agree with that thing, okay? Yeah, people like Homelander because he's crazy and that makes him interesting to watch. The Joker is another example of where people misinterpreted that. Yep. I think Homelander is probably the best example of that. I feel like they've been saying this guy's been saying the same thing about Avowed. The Avowed disaster is your fault and woke devs are pissed. Avowed is a woke modern audience disaster. It's your fault. This feels like the same video 4 times. Is this the same video 4 times? It's nearly the same length. I'm really curious to see what this guy's saying. I'm really curious. Let's watch it.
The cope is hitting levels we never thought possible, but the sludge keeps flowing unmitigated by
this is one of those grifters I haven't watched yet.
The collective delusion of an industry that is just wrought with bad actors spinning stories with nothing to show for it. Avowed success has rightfully been put into question based on the raw numbers presented, and we've reached the point similar to how Dragon Age Veilguard went, where these industry types are now attempting to run gaslighting campaigns to convince players.
Oh my god.
Oi, wokeman, have some woke bucks to continue woking. In all seriousness though, Endymion is an outrage merchant with no convictions, he sucks.
Otherwise, here's Screen Rant's article, Avowed Success Could Be the Death of Bethesda. Obsidian Entertainment has often felt like it is in the shadow of Bethesda, with its better-known games including The Outer Worlds and Avowed often being directly compared to Bethesda's beloved IP. The Outer Worlds is seen as just being Fallout.
I am going to, as somebody who has played 16 hours of Avowed and hundreds of hours of Skyrim, I think the comparisons to Bethesda's work are a little unfounded. Avowed systems and mechanics are, outside of a superficial lens, very different when you get into it, right? Skyrim, you go into a dungeon, you collect loot, most of it gets pawned off. In Avowed, you don't really collect as much loot, and the loot you do collect is valuable because it gets redone into materials that you upgrade your items with. So the loot pool is lighter, but you develop a loadout early and then stick with it and build up the power over time. And when you get legendary weapons, you get materials from the dungeons, and then you get bonuses and different things added onto your weapons based on the materials you get. So it's much less about collecting shitloads of loot and killing guys, and more about like what kind of build are you making with the supplies that you're gathering, right? It's not about collecting a lot of stuff.
Light, and Avowed up until launch was Skyrim Light. Obsidian Entertainment has even made a spin-off of Bethesda's.
Also, Avowed is really, really parkour focused. Avowed is incredibly parkour focused. I honestly wish they dug into that a little more. I think it's very interesting how this fantasy game has like this weird like parkour system built into it.
Fallout series in the form of New Vegas, further implying, at least at first glance, that.
But yeah, there's no junk items in Avowed.
The developer is riding the coattails of a bigger and more successful one. Let me stop you right there, Tom. Obsidian is absolutely in the business of making Bethesda-like light games. It goes without.
Again, if you've played Avowed, the comparisons to like Bethesda's work are really, really superficial, because the moment-to-moment gameplay, yes, does play a little bit like Skyrim, but the macro of what you're experiencing is totally different. The writing of your companions matters. Like Kai and Marius, who are featured here, are really fleshed out and have this history. Meanwhile, Lydia in Skyrim is like some nobody glup shitto, okay? And all the companions in Fallout 4 have like they're just not that great. I'm sorry.
question. I would frankly consider most of their successful games are either reimaginings of what other developers have made, or games that are sequels to things that other devs have already done. For an example, New Vegas is the obvious one here. Of course, Obsidian was founded with some of the founders being people who worked on the original Fallout games. Another example of a game that Obsidian made was Knights of the Old Republic 2. Of course, the first KOTOR was developed by BioWare, but due to its scheduling conflicts, BioWare was unable to develop the sequel. But BioWare was good friends with Obsidian as developers and then pushed LucasArts to actually allow Obsidian to develop the sequel instead. Understandably, a lot of these legacy RPG studios...
Yeah, I was going to say, this guy isn't really saying anything other than that Obsidian is seasoned in making RPGs. You know, if they're able to stand hand in hand against Bethesda and BioWare, then they probably have some chops to make an RPG. I don't...
BioWare, Bethesda, Obsidian, and more.
Like, what is this? This doesn't say anything bad about them. This is honestly not even an indictment of them.
And people who either know each other or have worked together in the past on other games. To say that the early 2000s was a golden era of Western RPGs, I think we can agree that would be a massive understatement. Apart from the KOTOR games, like I said, you had the...
I do think that there was like a really beautiful era in games where all these like amazing Western RPGs are coming out. But, you know, we still get a lot... We get a lot more RPGs now, right? So the amount of bad ones exists as well, but you also get like a Baldur's Gate 3. If you haven't played any of the CRPGs that have come out in the last like 6 years, we have a shitload of indie CRPGs that are amazing. The 40K one is great. I talk about Disco Elysium all the time, okay? It lets you be racist. It lets you be racist. Both of those games let you be racist.
Fallout re-emerging with Fallout 3 that won ton of awards, and of course stuff like Oblivion came out during the early 2000s as well. Not to mention you had stuff like Mass Effect and more. This golden era, in my opinion, it has been over for quite a while. I would wager that the golden era of Western RPGs ended...
I think, okay, personal gripe, I think describing moments in history as this is a golden age, this is this, makes sense for like long scale history and nation states. It does not make sense for media or fucking like games or any of that. I complained about it with that Minecraft guy, the British one who I'm drawing a blank on. But I feel like, you know, it's a lot of the people saying this was the golden age of RPGs were teenagers or children when they came out. So I feel like a lot of people engage with that media in a way of nostalgia. I didn't grow up with Oblivion. I tried playing Oblivion recently. I'm like, this shit is janky. I'm surprised it was that popular. Okay? But then I play Skyrim and I'm like, oh my God, Skyrim. Because I grew up with Skyrim. I didn't grow up with Oblivion.
Promptly in 2015 when Witcher 3 released. That was probably the last big Western RPG that released, and rightfully so blew the doors off the hinges too of expectations and what gamers could get from games. Fun fact actually, when CD Projekt Red was making the first Witcher, it was actually BioWare that saved them and gave them the resources and even the space, like physically on their convention floor within BioWare's booth, to promote their little game that was called The Witcher that no one at the time knew about. And BioWare helped CD Projekt effectively turn themselves into another big RPG maker. I know some would say, but what about Cyberpunk 2077?
And Witcher was being seasoned by CD Projekt Red since the late 90s too. They have 2 games in the Witcher series before Witcher 3 that they got to practice their chops on. And if you play The Witcher 1, you see a progression of complexity from 1 to 3. So yeah, Witcher 3 was great, but they spent 2 games over a decade of experience building the game till it was bigger.
Isn't that...
I used to have opinions like you, and then I took an arrow to the knee. I don't know. I don't understand why I always get like literally. What is this?
To a golden era game? Well, it would have been if the game released in a playable state and was more in line with what it is now when it did release initially in 2020. But it can't be understated how poorly received Cyberpunk was at launch due to technical issues and more, as we all know.
So Cyberpunk was poorly received because of the bugs, but it still reviewed well despite that when it launched too. People could recognize that the story of Cyberpunk 2077 was something special when it came out. That's why I enjoyed it, even though it was a buggy mess when I played it at launch.
This is why, in my opinion, the last actual great release from the West RPG-wise is The Witcher 3, and that's...
Also, I love how he says Witcher 3 is a Western RPG, when some people would say that they're not a Western.
Genre is dead or X time was a golden era isn't paying attention. I have personally almost gotten in fights over the mecha genre when the most recent Armored Core was announced.
Yeah, it's like like people get blinders, or like, I think it's not blinders. I think people get busy. People get old.
still hasn't been beaten. Like I said, the golden era of Western RPGs is kind of not really a thing now. Sure, some may say, but what about Kingdom Come?
I could honestly see people saying Witcher 3 wasn't a Western RPG because the developers are like Polish. I could see that happening.
Too. But having put well over 60 hours into that game myself, so far I think that Kingdom Come 2 is maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10 at best.
I wonder why you're saying that. It's because there's a black guy and like a gay kiss 100 hours in.
Honestly just find it to be very outdated in a lot of ways myself. And if you
are you kidding? That's why people love it. That's why people love it. Dude, if you play Kingdom Come Deliverance, it's like playing an older game. Okay? It's like playing a game from when like Morrowind was around, right? Because the complexity is on par with a lot of those older RPGs, which were more mechanically dense despite their graphics. Isn't a gay kiss optional? Not for them. They need to do the gay kiss to be outraged.
were to ask me, I would actually say that The Witcher 3, that looks far better than Kingdom Come 2 does, despite it being 10 years.
Yeah, but the entire process of these games is completely different. Comparing these games is ridiculous because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is delivering a simulation like medieval experience, while Witcher 3 is like this fucking Shrek parody romp of fantasy tropes steeped in edgy, grim darkness. It's two completely different things.
Older than it as well, especially if you compare the enhanced version of Witcher 3 available now on modern platforms. Kingdom Come 2, just graphically and performance-wise and all of that.
But the point of it being, like, the graphical complexity of a video game doesn't determine whether or not a video game is good or not. I'm sorry, but I enjoy worse, like, games with worse graphics that are more mechanically dense these days. I'm not really miffed about it, right? Like, I don't understand, like, why you're doing it on the basis of graphics. Because the graphics shit is like a goofy argument to make.
Cannot even compare in my opinion. So I still stand by my point that the golden era of Western RPGs was from 2000 pretty much to about 2015. Since then, it has been very hit or miss. Obsidian hasn't been doing themselves any—
Diesel, do you think the buzzwords have destroyed your lexicon to display critical thinking? That any further discussion on games issues is not possible? I believe so. I think people use buzzword. Okay, people don't. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do the thing. Media literacy is dead. People don't know how to convey their thoughts, and it is a skill to convey your thoughts. That's why being a critic is a job, because it actually requires skill to criticize something. To give a complex, nuanced opinion on a game, you need to play the game. You need to understand the mechanics. You need to actually get in there. Right? But it's much easier to use a buzzword because you don't really know how to describe your opinion. A buzzword is used in place of you actually understanding what you're getting on with.
Favors either, as they clearly just keep rehashing old ideas in somewhat new ways to varying degrees. Like this Tom Wilson of Screen Rant tried to say that things like the Outer Worlds are amazing. Frankly, haven't beaten that game when it first—
I don't like Outer Worlds. I think the writing in Outer Worlds is really bad. I am really glad that Avowed isn't doing this like funny haha thing, right? Like, because Outer Worlds was like this, Outer Worlds is a critique on capitalism. That is just what the game is about. And it does not do it well. And the comedy writing is very bad in Outer Worlds. It's grating. But Avowed plays it straight because it comes from the Pillars universe. So it has a lot more to go on. I think Outer Worlds struggled because it was a new universe.
Released, I found the Outer Worlds to just be a Fallout-like game with a disappointing story, forgettable characters, and by the numbers, seen this all before gameplay if I'm being honest. The only big positive that I found with Outer Worlds at launch, I guess, was that it wasn't an unmitigated buggy mess of epic proportions that was something that, players kind of expected from these Western RPGs. Beyond the playable state of it, I think Outer Worlds is just average at best, and Fallout, in my opinion, is still much better in every single way. And with Avowed, despite Obsidian trying—
I think Fallout 4 is a humongous downgrade for the franchise. But I don't think Outer Worlds is doing any better, personally. But I'm not as passionate about the retro futurism setting type thing. I'm just not really interested in that.
To steer the conversation away from saying that it's not Skyrim or Oblivion, that doesn't really matter. Because the creators of these games can try to define what their games are, but ultimately, it'll be the community and customers who will decide that for themselves. And looking at them side by side, yeah, Avowed is pretty much Skyrim, just not as good. Besides—
oh my god. Yes, if I put Skyrim on screen and then Avowed on screen, they look the same. I get it. But they don't play the same. I don't play Skyrim like Avowed. They don't play the same at all. Okay, you play a wizard in Avowed, it is a completely different experience than playing a magic user in Skyrim. The magic in Skyrim falls off at high levels because of the way the level scaling works. Avowed doesn't have level scaling, so sometimes you go into areas you just get absolutely body stomped, right? Another thing is that the mechanical complexity of the magic system in Avowed is a lot different than Skyrim, right? For example, the magic in Avowed is based around cooldowns and you having a hot bar. You have a fucking hot bar in Avowed. So you can have like 8 different spells on your hot bar. You can switch between them and a grimoire. Grimoire will increase the level of spells you have. And another thing that I've realized in Avowed is that proccing status effects and using your environment matters a lot more in this game than in Skyrim. In Skyrim, you go, you beat the shit out of them, you win. But Avowed, if you're stupid and you're playing on normal, and you're playing a spellcaster, I don't know how it is for marshals. I'm not playing a marshal. I've heard the marshal experience is kind of boring. But like, for example, the water you see in Avowed, you have lightning spells. So you call down a lightning spell while you're fighting guys in the water, it's going to spread and then hit all of them, right? And you'll get a lot more bang for your buck when you cast that spell. Another thing, when you proc the electricity status effect in Avowed, it causes an AoE explosion on the guys that you're attacking. And so as a result, you get this chain effect of the lightning hitting all the guys and proccing itself over and over again. And you can clear out people pretty quickly, right? So as a wizard, you have to play with your placement and your environment really well, or you're going to lose, right? And even if you're a marshal, you should pick up an elemental weapon because it'll just be
As
better.
Someone who recently got humbled by a college English placement test, I could write a better video than this guy.
The fact that it has the unreactive world and bland story and character.
I definitely think I would wait for Avowed to go on sale, though. I'll even say that, right? Because Avowed has some performance issues on mid-range systems. The game is definitely trying to push itself, and it definitely lessens the experience. There's just annoying bugs that I've come across, and it's been a damn shame that that happens, but that's just the reality of it.
Characters, Avowed does play a lot like Skyrim, and it doesn't help that Screen Rant's or Obsidian's case that yet again, like always, Obsidian is just always chasing those glory days they had back in the early 2000s, and look, I don't blame them. I mean, why wouldn't you want to recapture the magic or interest of your bed?
Like, if he knew anything about Avowed, he'd know it takes place in the Pillars universe, right? The context of which things are happening here is also very different. The concepts that are explored in Pillars of Eternity are so fucking different. Does it have Steam Deck compatible version? Yes, it does run on Steam Deck. I've actually played it on my Steam Deck.
Games, it makes sense to me. Of course, every developer will have to play to their
Make sure you turn off ray tracing.
strengths, and the DNA of a studio's legacy will always have a place no matter what game they make. From Software, no matter what they do, you can tell that they made the game when you play it. Whether it's Demon's Souls or Bloodborne or Elden Ring, all different games in ways, sure, but they have the same DNA, the same Obsidian has with their games too. I think more so that From Software is a great example of how to take what you're known for and then elevate it and reiterate on what you've done before versus a new release. Elden Ring is pretty much just Dark Souls, but now it's open world, but it's more than that, of course. For an example, you can now jump at your own leisure. Maybe that might not seem big to some, but in the design structure of FromSoft's previous games, jumping freely in, say, Elden Ring or even Sekiro...
Does Avowed let you do the crouch sniper? So Avowed does let you have the stealth archer build, but it is not going to work the same way as Skyrim at all. You can't really do a stealth archer build because you're not going to one-shot everything.
Well, that's a big thing. Sure, you could jump in the other games, although you would have to, sprint and then tap to launch yourself. Beyond the whole jumping Elden Ring thing, of course, that makes the game far
These are all really superficial comparisons about the mechanics, right? I think if anybody's played Elden Ring versus like a Dark Souls, there are similarities, yeah, but there are a lot more nuanced complexities about Elden Ring that set it apart from its other contemporaries.
linear.
Diesel, I'm an audio engineer. I'm graduating college soon. I've come across brilliant audio plays and really bad scripts I won't pass. It all revolves around your ability to convey a story. Yeah. But can you teabag?
Than before and adds open world exploration and tons of secrets and more in that game over something like Dark Souls. Elden Ring is effectively the ultimate FromSoft game in terms of design. It's not my favorite game that they've made, but credit where it's due. And of course, Obsidian with Avowed is just taking the things they know and applying it in a form they are comfortable and understand as well. And again, I have no problem with that, but this article claiming that Obsidian is the Bethesda killer, that's nonsense. It's like, how-
I think the comparisons with Bethesda are really ridiculous, and I also do think that Bethesda is just not that great. Starfield is really bad.
many times have we heard that this new game is the bona fide Skyrim killer or Call of Duty killer?
There are greater comparisons to be made between Elden Ring and Dark Souls than the fucking jump button.
And then a few months later, Skyrim and COD are still going strong, and then those games that were like, trust me, bro, are already dead and gone instead. Too many times, right, that we can all care to agree. It's just incredible to me that when you really think about it, Skyrim truly was the pinnacle of what the Western gaming sphere was capable of making. You can place any RPG against
As someone who for most of their life only owned the base unupdatable Xbox 360 version of Skyrim, I think people have way too much nostalgia about how good base Skyrim was, because it's not that good.
I am planning on doing like a members review of Avowed, and I kind of want to do a vanilla playthrough of Skyrim to compare the two. But it's kind of hard to get a vanilla Skyrim up and running on a modern system, which is the really fucking annoying part. But I do think if I went and played Skyrim now, it would not hold up without mods.
Skyrim, and the likelihood is that
I like Starfield. I would like to recommend you play No Man's Sky is not the same thing, but I think you might enjoy it if you enjoy the building aspect of Starfield. If you are looking for a space RPG, you're kind of shit out of luck right now, but I would definitely say look around for something indie because there's some more interesting stories to be told in space.
in terms of choice, replayability, and content, that Skyrim will still...
Yeah, notice how Obsidian never said it was a Skyrim killer. Yeah, it's everybody else applying that. They actually said they wanted to make an Outer Worlds style game of the Pillars universe.
Come out on top. For me anyways, if you were to ask me what are the best examples of the pinnacles of the West versus East game design, I would actually confidently just pick Skyrim and Dark Souls respectively, and nothing from this current gen of games. Coincidentally,
But okay, I don't Western and Eastern video game design philosophy is so much more complicated than that.
by the way, both of those games came out in 2011. We never
This guy's an idiot. This guy doesn't play anything. He's not a media critic. He's actually just stupid.
knew how good we had it, did we, back then? Ever since...
Like, I'm not poo-pooing on his politics at all. I don't really care if he doesn't like woke games or anything like that, but it's just like his critiques of what makes Avowed bad just haven't been articulated very well.
Those releases, every game from not just those studios, Bethesda or From Software, but really all studios have pretty much just replicated or tried.
Not BG3. Like, I don't even, what do you even compare? Like, what is even the hallmarks of what makes Eastern versus Western RPG design? Because a role-playing game at its like base core is that you embody a character and get to choose its stats. Like,
to what those two mammoth dev studios did at that time. Although in my
this is why I only have conversations with folk who actually have consumed the media they're talking about. It's why I keep trying to not be the guy who talks about media I haven't played or watched.
opinion, From Software clears Bethesda in the past 10 years and then some easily in terms of quality releases. While From Software has the Dark Souls trilogy, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, and even Armored Core, those all came out, by the way, since 2011 till right now. Bethesda in that same amount of time has made Fallout 76 and Starfield. Oh, and I guess Fallout 4. I keep forgetting that game exists, but I think we can all agree that, again, if you place those games up against Skyrim or Fallout 3, you can see the DNA and the tissue connecting, but I think we can all agree that Skyrim and Fallout 3 are far better than 76 or Starfield or even Fallout 4. So
76, I feel, doesn't really deserve to be in this conversation, given that the game isn't a survival game, but the other two, I guess, yeah, sure.
why is it that the East is able to replicate and reiterate and improve, but the West just can't seem to do that as much? I think it's a lot.
They definitely do, and you don't see a lot of the Eastern game slop that comes out, right? Because, like, for every for every, what is that? Is that Ghost of Tsushima? Because it definitely doesn't look like Sekiro. But, like, for every video game like Sekiro you get 40 other, like, fucking JRPG, RPG Maker games, and, like, a bunch of, like, poorly written, like, a bunch of poorly written, like, fucking visual novels. Like, it's not comparable at all.
A lot of things from greedy executives, of course, wanting those surefire hits.
Also, the greedy executives line is really funny. What, you don't think Japanese executives are just as fucking terrible as American executives? All right, look at all the workplace abuse that happens in Japan, okay? You know, like, look at the suicide rates. Look at the lack of birth rates, dude.
You know, new game devs being raised in these programmed, victimized mindsets that are bringing down the whole ship with them, so to speak, too. But if I had to pinpoint it, it's that the Eastern game devs have two things over the Western game devs in spades. One is, of course, that the East is not as nearly hell-bent on pushing ideology in all the forms, but
Are
two
you
is that the East...
fucking nuts? Are you fucking nuts? Okay. All right, listen. When we make when we make art, when anybody makes art, we have views, right? And sometimes those views get put into the work we make. In fact, most of the time it does, right? I don't think, like, if you are a Japanese game developer, your view of the world impacts how you tackle themes in video games, right? Like, the the games you're making have all these themes and ideas, and the ideas that are prescient to a Japanese developer are different, right? So you might not notice those themes because you're a Westerner and your views and cultural identity are different. So you're not going to recognize those things. Okay? No one mentions Space Battleship Yamato. You know, the thing is, anime is a great example of this, right? Let's talk about the Gundam universe. I'm a big Gundam person. Okay. Who's familiar with UC Gundam, right? Universal Century Gundam. That's the main universe. That's where the RX-78 comes from. Okay. This story of the war, the original war in UC Gundam between Zeon and Earth, is World War II. It is World War II. So, for example, we have all the people that are psychics in the Gundam universe, right? And those psychics usually carry the themes of, if we could all understand each other better, there wouldn't be war, right? And usually their commentaries on how a lack of understanding causes unnecessary conflict. And the psychic people in the Gundam universe are what bring it together, right? These are powerful people, right? They're also usually ace pilots, right? Almost every Gundam series is about the hell of war. And the original Gundam series comes out in a time where a lot of those people were probably kids during World War II, right? A lot of those people understood what happened when the nuclear bombs were dropped. So the devastation and destruction that a Gundam can bring onto a city is a really present issue that they're tackling when they're talking about it in the anime, and how powerful a Gundam is. The fact that so many Japanese games and media star young people and teenagers is a cultural statement in itself. Their adult culture is so oppressive, being a teenager is considered the most amazing time of their lives. Yeah. Right? Godzilla was based on the nuke, right? This guy probably believes Kojima isn't very political. Kojima's work is so... There's two things that I think are really present in Kojima's work. The Human Genome Project and nukes. Kojima is very fundamentally changed by the example of nukes being used on his home country. That ends up becoming a really present issue in every single Metal Gear game. All of the Metal Gears are nuclear powered or can fire nuclear weapons. They are weapons platforms for nukes and encourage the proliferation of nuclear weapons in society, right? To be fair, Kojima's work focuses on American shit, so it's very overt in his political takes. That's true. But the Human Genome Project is one we don't really talk about a lot. Guys, in the 90s, we sequenced the human genome. That was a humongous thing that happened. If you watch a lot of the media from that time, have you ever seen Gattaca? The idea of designer babies, the idea that, oh, the ability to manipulate human genes might be a humongous issue for the future. That's the basis of Solid and Liquid in Metal Gear Solid. The idea that controlling the genes of a person might inhibit and control who they are as an individual is a present issue in that. Snake, Solid Snake, who is the inferior clone, or was it Liquid or Solid who's the inferior clone? Fuck. Okay, so it's Liquid. All right, it's Liquid. I've seen more people say it's Liquid. Right? So it's like, you know, are you defined by your genes, or do you raise above them to become something else, right? All that stuff is like a theme that's brought up in it. There's a bunch of other themes, but that's like a huge theme that's brought up.
they do still lay off people, in general, the Asian side of gaming development has a far, far higher retention rate. Is hell-bent on all fronts when it comes to pushing ideology, Avowed included. But also that the West...
What about Avowed pushes ideology? I'm 16 hours in Avowed, okay? I don't know, like, what is the ideology that Avowed is pushing? I need to know. Does Andy Pants Gaming have a video on Avowed? Somebody send it to me. I want to watch that because I know he's just going to say his insane takes.
Kind of just treats game devs kind of like disposable toys. And whenever a game is done or not working, they don't really keep the people there or cultivate them for the future. Most of the time, the big Western game devs just kind of go, okay, we're making this game, let's hire a bunch of people. You do this, I do this, you learn whatever, years pass, the game gets done, cool, we all know how to...
Yeah, you're hired, you're brought onto a project, and then you let go. Meanwhile, in a Japanese country, if you quit, you're going to be blackballed from the industry. If you speak about the poor working conditions, you're going to be blackballed from the industry. You're going to be ostracized from your coworkers if you don't work the long hours that all your other compatriots are working, right? So yeah, you get a job, you get it for life, but that comes with some caveats that you're gonna have to give your entire life to the job, all right? So it's either you get fired all the time or you get grinded into dust by the meat grinder of the industry. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
To do these things and how to work together finally. So let's now do the dumbest thing imaginable and massively fire everyone we just cultivated at our studio to shed the weight so we don't have to share the profits.
Yes, yes, that is an issue. Yes, wow, surprisingly workers' rights.
They do it all over again for the next inevitable game, and then the growing process is just as painful a second or third or fourth time again. I mean, yeah, the East does this too, but compared to the West, come on, guys, it's not even close. So whereas the East, for the most part, cultivates their talent, this allows for a far more...
I'm sorry, but I don't think this guy engages with the philosophical nuances of Japanese society enough.
steady stream of content being made, and games coming out at a more consistent rate. Elden Ring Night Rain, for example, that comes out this year. Armored Core wasn't that long ago either, and before that you had Elden Ring and the expansion Shadow of the Erdtree. That was last year too. In the time that From Software took to release all of those games, Bethesda pretty much just released, what, Starfield and one bad expansion that everybody hated for it?
Yeah, the ballooning creep of projects is an issue. I should also mention that Elden Ring is a game that they made, right? But they already had the basis of all these other games, so they didn't need to go back to the drawing board. Yeah, Elden Ring Night Rain is literally reusing assets. Yes.
The problem being, of course, besides ideology that does ruin everything that the West doesn't really respect their devs as much also, and that shows. Circling back to Obsidian and Avowed, that's a big reason why their games in particular don't really push the envelope compared to what they did before. Granted, even before with New Vegas or Knights of the Old Republic 2, it was just more of the same if you compare those games to what they were pulling from. But understandably, the quality was still there. With Outer Worlds and Avowed...
I think a lot of people saying, oh, listen, New Vegas is great. I know we all like New Vegas. New Vegas is buggy. New Vegas is incredibly fucking buggy, okay? And you need patches for it to enjoy it. All right. And we're sitting here talking about how great New Vegas is, ignoring how difficult it is to keep that game running.
It's just making Obsidian honestly just look like a mini Bethesda.
Like, I feel like people are just like he's just saying that about New Vegas because people like New Vegas.
Worse. And it does just seem like that Obsidian is just in the business of giving you Bethesda-like games that aren't as good as their past.
Have you played Pillars of Eternity? This guy's a fucking idiot. This guy is not familiar with the media that he is consuming.
Games but also offer less, and they are, for lack of a better term, Bethesda Light. That's genuinely what Obsidian has become at this point.
Well, you're saying that from a position of authority, but I don't think you've actually played these games enough to understand what makes them mechanically different.
Continues with this very moronic take. However, in almost every instance, Obsidian Entertainment beats Bethesda at its own game, developing far more immersive, competent, and enjoyable RPGs, the likes of which Bethesda has struggled to imitate. While not every Obsidian Entertainment game is a hit, they largely excel where Bethesda can't. Avowed, Obsidian's latest game, already has the makeup of a perfect RPG, and that may be concerning for Bethesda with practically every other...
I think Avowed is a great RPG, but it's not like perfect. I think there's a lot of things that it struggles with mechanically. I'm not done with it, but there are some mechanics that aren't really explained super well. Like all the status effect stuff I figured out on my own. The game didn't really tell me that in the tutorial. I don't know if you should front load that into the tutorial or not. I liked discovering that I had all these synergies between my spells, but it's like, why didn't I know about this? Right? Because it makes such a big difference in combat that knowing about it would be a game changer for a lot of players, right? Or like that you should be turning your junk loot into mats instead.
studio releasing far superior RPGs, what chance does the Elder Scrolls 6 have? Well, for starters, you're just lying, Screen Rant. Obsidian is not better than Bethesda. Frankly, none of these Western game dev studios right now are particularly great, like any of them. And they're all either releasing middling, passable at best experiences, or they're just kind of making slop now. Starfield...
And then it's like you're using... Like, I get it. Like, a lot of these AAA games are really bad, but you're, like, ignoring how vast the landscape is now. There's all these amazing indie games.
That was a big release, but even then, it didn't win any awards when it released. It was completely eclipsed by the other much better games of its time. Obsidian...
Yeah, wasn't everybody talking about how gay and woke Baldur's Gate was, too?
It also doesn't make more immersive games, and Bethesda doesn't actually imitate them, like, at all. It's actually the other way around, as I already explained. Obsidian, clearly, they want...
It's like, and then on top of that, the entire world of Avowed is so different than Bethesda's world of the Elder Scrolls. Like, if we're just talking about it from, like, an immersion perspective, you're getting a different world. You're getting, like, this flintlock fantasy colonization era game about the political strifes of these nation states. While Bethesda is, like, more the chosen one goes on a fantasy adventure. You know, which is fine. Those are just different experiences.
To be so badly the next big Bethesda,
this guy
but instead they keep making games that are just okay or passable at best, and they keep missing that real flavor, or, you know, those it factor mechanics or moments to push them over that edge into brilliance. When was the last time an Obsidian game won Game of the Year, or was even considered to be in the running? Oh, that's right, that hasn't happened in, like, what, 15 years, maybe more than that, if ever? Plus, Skyrim...
What about Pillars of Eternity?
Still beating Avowed on Steam despite...
Oh my god! The problem is that Avowed is on Game Pass, first of all. Second of all, This is such a stupid metric. I hate this metric. This metric is, like, ridiculous every time it's brought up. Okay? All right? Especially when we're hiding the concurrent, like, peaks and lulls, right? So it's like, this doesn't matter because we don't know what time this is happening at. Assumedly, this is, like, what is this? Like, midnight? Is this military time? Right? Is this, like, fucking midnight?
Being 14 years old, you can't be serious, Screen Rant. And saying what chance does Bethesda have with Elder Scrolls 6, are you kidding me? Dude, the only other game that may have a bigger splash on the games industry right now, besides, of course, Grand Theft Auto 6, that would be Elder Scrolls 6. If Elder Scrolls 6 got confirmed suddenly to be released this year, which isn't happening, but let's just say that it did, that would instantly become the most pre-ordered game of the year outside of Grand Theft Auto 6, and there would be...
Oh my god, this is such a stupid metric to compare these two.
Plenty. You can't be serious trying to claim that Obsidian has somehow taken the throne from anyone when it comes to making Western RPGs. Their games are still small fry in comparison, and at the best of times they are just...
it's like a more tight experience, right? Like Elder Scrolls Skyrim is this open world RPG. Avowed is not open world. It has zones. It has zones. It's like Baldur's Gate, where you have big zones where stuff happens, and then you go to the next zone, and the story continues.
Usually called Skyrim, but worse. Let's not kid ourselves. Look, I'm not trying to defend Bethesda here, because they too have been faltering aplenty as well, but the sad reality is that Skyrim is still more next-gen in practically every single way than, like, 99% of the games that are released in the...
Are you in... That is just wrong. That's just wrong. Saying that Skyrim is more next-gen than things that are coming out now is absolutely outrageous, dude. If I went to go play vanilla Skyrim right now, I'd be like, this shit is rough.
West still, and that's more so sad and pathetic than it is impressive. Because it just kind of shows how regressive and unwilling the West has become in delivering games that meet the quality of something that is...
Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking explode. Avowed is Norwegian. It is not made in America. It is made by a Norwegian team. It is not American. This is not a Western. When we say Western, they mean American, right? Like, that's really what they're saying, right? But are you fucking kidding me? Comparing Dustborn to anything is ridiculous. You should compare Dustborn to a David Cage game or a Telltale game, at most, okay? Because the game,
almost old enough to vote, for God's sakes. As much as I love The Witcher 3, we gotta be honest that Skyrim still outdoes it in terms of replay value and actual choices and systems of plenty.
Are you fucking insane? This guy is actually just wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong, okay? There is definitely more choice in The Witcher. The mechanical complexity of The Witcher's development inside, like the mechanics, right? So when you choose stats and stuff, you have more choice in The Witcher, period. The builds that you can develop in The Witcher 3 are always going to be more complex than the builds that you can make in Skyrim. The game is completely different, than Skyrim on top of that. But just like from a mechanics standpoint, like how you develop Geralt in The Witcher 3 is infinitely more complex than the stat boosting level ups of Skyrim. Both are great, but one is a very different system, okay?
3 is great, don't get it twisted, but Skyrim still has the whole thievery stealth system, entire dungeons that are littered across...
Okay, but Witcher 3 is a very specific experience, right? You're always going to be playing Geralt, all right? You don't get to make your own character. But because you're stuck playing Geralt, there's all this other complexity that you can have on it, all right? Skyrim doesn't have that complexity.
Map. That, by the way, not nearly enough games have taken that particular idea into account when they make their own games. You noticed how many open-world Western games are mostly just, here's a big map, but a lot of them seem to lack that Skyrim dungeon design, where you just stumble...
Oh my god, dude. The Skyrim dungeon design is one of the most lacking aspects of it.
Upon a cave and then you end up in some crazy level where stuff starts happening. Witcher has that to some degree, yeah, but it's not
too much Skyrim with lovers
nearly to the level of Skyrim. I hate to say it, fellas, but even though we're in 2025 right now, Skyrim is still pretty much the gold standard for Western RPG games. And sure, Avowed has that too, don't get me wrong, but
I don't know anybody who could look at Skyrim and say it's more mechanically dense than Witcher 3.
The same level as Skyrim, again, over 10 years removed? Not really. And it's baffling how so many years removed and the West has still not been able to surpass Skyrim. This might sound like
you are crazy in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 exists.
Sucking Skyrim off, but it's more so just me telling you how pathetic the industry has been in delivering these experiences that are better than something that ran on a base Xbox 360 in
Skyrim is as wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle.
2011 compared to now. Then Screen Rant had this crazy statement which reads, Avowed could make the Elder Scrolls obsolete. It shows how out-of-date Bethesda's design is. Actually, if
there's a lot of things that Elder Scrolls could take from Avowed. There just is. Okay? I think all the trash loot is really fucking annoying in Skyrim. That annoys the shit out of me. But again, it's been a while since I've replayed Skyrim, so I need to go back before I could even... I need to play Skyrim before I could accurately critique this opinion that this person is making.
If anything, Avowed's release shows how obsolete and out-of-date Obsidian's design is, because they still can't manage to outdo a game that they keep trying to replicate, but can't ever seem to even come close to. Screen Rant then says this, Bethesda's games have declined in quality significantly since the days of Daggerfall, Morrowind, and even Oblivion. Its more recent titles, including Starfield and Fallout 76, have been marred with controversy from buggy launches to unfulfilled potential, all of which have led to fans growing upset with Bethesda. People expect more from the developer behind one of the most talked about and best-selling RPGs of all time, Skyrim. It's understandable why fans are so desperate for better Bethesda games, especially as a developer's signature flair is rarely replicated due to its complexity of its foundations. Look, Bethesda has been on the decline, sure, and yes, the past 10 years would be ample amounts of time for Obsidian to steal the crown, so to speak, from Bethesda when it comes to making blockbuster RPG games. But the reality is just that they haven't. I guarantee you, if you took every game...
This is just slop on slop. This is slop on slop. This guy's responding to a Screen Rant op-ed, okay? And who the fuck gives a shit about a Screen Rant op-ed?
That Obsidian made from 2011...
That gameplay footage is modded.
So desperate for better Bethesda games, especially as a developer's signature flair is rarely replicated due to its complexity of its foundations. Look, Bethesda has been on the decline, sure, and yes, the past 10 years would be ample amounts of time...
I think Skyrim is where the big empty open world map problem started.
For Obsidian to steal the crown, so to speak, from Bethesda when it comes to making blockbuster RPG games. But the reality is just that they haven't. I guarantee you, if you took every game that Obsidian made from 2011 till now, the amount of copies sold combined, they probably don't even surpass Skyrim alone. Actually, now we need to know. We all need to know, right? Okay, so Skyrim was 2011, so this means that New Vegas can't be counted here because it came out in 2011.
Hey, just interject here. This is Future Endymion. It was 2010 that New Vegas came out, not 2011. I screwed up there. My bad. Let's keep moving.
Which already means that Obsidian is likely not going to cross Skyrim's numbers. So in 2011, they released Dungeon Siege 3. The best number that I could find online is that this game sold about 300,000 copies. South Park's Stick of Truth, that sold 1.6 million copies, so we're now...
Yeah, Obsidian is cooked, guys. South Park, The Stick of Truth exists.
Sitting roughly at 1.9 million for both of these games. Let's keep going. Pillars of Eternity, best I could find is that game crossed about 500,000 copies by 2015, and that's it. So we're now sitting at about 2.4 million copies. Then we have Skyforge. I've never even heard of this game. It reviewed very poorly. It was
this looks like a mobile game. I'm not gonna lie.
Developed between Obsidian and Allode's team. I couldn't find any concrete numbers, but it is also a free-to-play MMO.
Oh, Skyforge. Oh my god, I played that. That game sucked. Never mind. I know what that is. It's like an action RPG.
Apparently got sold off for a lot of money to like China. So unfortunately here, because it's free to play, it's hard to find...
it became like a Nexon or NetEase game or something.
Actual paid customers or sales numbers. Then we have Pathfinder Adventures. According to Steam, it says it has about 200,000 owners. So that puts it at about 2.6 million sales so far. Armored Warfare has abysmal player numbers and was also...
That also looks like a mobile game. Pathfinder Adventures sounds good, though. I might pick that up.
Developed by Obsidian. Again, no lifetime sales provided, but Steam charts peaked was around 700 players at best, so probably not very good. Tyranny apparently sold about 562,000 copies last recorded, so we're at about 3.1 million units so far across tons of games.
Tyranny is okay. I think it's got some serious writing problems, but it's a good experience. It's a good CRPG.
games already. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire was last reported sales-wise in November 2018, having only sold 110,000 copies. And yeah, it was a massive flop. So 3.2 million units now in total.
That's a shame. I think the Pillars universe is really interesting. I own Pillars of Eternity too. I haven't played it. That might be a slept on hit
for Obsidian. Then we finally have an actual hit for Obsidian, The Outer Worlds, which sold roughly 5 million units. So that pushes us up to 8.1 million units overall for Obsidian. Grounded has no sales numbers, but it has reached over 20 million players via Game Pass. So this game is a success by Microsoft's way of looking at things via Game Pass, but in terms of actual sales, the best figure I could find for paid sales is 2.6 million. So that puts Obsidian at 10.7 million units so far. Then we have Penitent, which is sitting at around 270,000 units. So we're at almost 11 million units in total, and then it's Avowed. But the closest that I could find on Game Analytic is that Avowed has sold somewhere around 172,000 paid copies. So all in all, right now, Obsidian with actual paid copies is, let's say, sitting at 10.9, almost 11 million units across all of those games that I just went through. And what has Skyrim sold by just itself? It's sitting at around the 60 million.
Oh my god, Skyrim's been re-released like a billion fucking times. After the years of silence regarding sales number, Todd Howard revealed in June 2023 that the RPG has sold over 60 million units. Yeah, I spoke last night with some people. There are many people that own multiple copies of Skyrim.
What's funny about what he's showing is Obsidian's games release history is very Eastern. A bunch of glub shitter smaller games, then a big release for a franchise.
Yeah, also notice how many games Obsidian has been working on in the time that Bethesda has been working on Starfield and then Elder Scrolls 6.
Copies mark. So Bethesda Skyrim has sold about 6 times the entirety of Obsidian.
60 million over 14 years. Yeah, this is not like this comparison makes no sense given the scale, right? If we're talking about the scale of like the first few weeks of sales versus like I that would make more sense. But this is not that comparison.
Actual paid copies sold of games they made across 10 titles from 2011 till now. So based on this, you tell me what fans are more eager about. Everything that Obsidian has made so far, which I'm not saying are bad games, but if we want...
I was just told that Cat Was Taken does not regret his 5 copies of Skyrim. Some new art of you and the bouncing fruits. I like how they're becoming part of my character as a human being. This is so cute. Oh my god. This is just adorable. Oh. Dude, there was somebody who posted the Kendrick Lamar fruits in the memes, and it was very funny. Okay, so I do have an Andy Pants gaming video, and it says Xbox's Avowed reviews are in, and the game is a flop. And then the thumbnail says gay and retarded. Oh my god. Oh my god. I gotta click on this. Wild. All right. I was yelled at by Falgi for not finishing videos that I watched, so we're gonna finish this video first.
Just look at the raw numbers here and then compare it to just Skyrim alone. It's not even close. Starfield has apparently sold about 3 million copies since launch, but it's also on Game Pass, which definitely hurt its sales numbers. It's also not on PlayStation yet as of this video recording, so that number could jump by then. And then Fallout 76. What do you guys think about that one? How many copies do you think that sold? 3 million? Maybe 2 million?
Yeah, I think the brand identity of Bethesda has allowed them to coast by selling mediocre products to millions of people. That's not necessarily a good thing. I'd prefer like smaller titles being released that had higher quality and lower fucking bug count. All right, Avowed does have bugs, but the amount of bugs I've experienced were much less than when I tried Starfield on Game Pass.
1 million at best. The actual number of sold units for Fallout 76 so far is 21 million, if you can believe it. Yeah, that surprised me too, but that means that Fallout 76 has outsold the entire last 10 years of Obsidian games by almost double here by itself.
This is not a comparable thing. Like the scale is so different between these two companies too. It's just ridiculous.
Why am I telling you all of this? It's to say that while Obsidian may make some quality
you're comparing apples and oranges in terms of like companies, you know, like the marketing value behind Bethesda is really high. All right, and 76 is an MMO, yes.
Here or there, the reality is that they are not the next Bethesda. They're quite literally, as Avowed and their other games get referenced to, they're Bethesda light at best. Screen Rant then copes really hard with this next part, and man, my god, just look at this. However, until now, no developer has offered a true competitor to Bethesda's style of game design. CD Projekt Red's third-person narrative-heavy Witcher 3, while undeniably better than Bethesda's recent output, is a vastly different experience to Skyrim or Fallout.
That's true, that's just straight up a fact.
Similarly, even Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, while veering into Scrolls-like territory, doesn't quite fit the bill due to its greater focus on realism and life sim mechanics.
Yep.
So it was up to Obsidian Entertainment to once again replicate Bethesda's style and prove once and for all that it is outdated.
And honestly, I don't know how anybody... I get it if you enjoyed Starfield, but I do feel like it's really outdated. It is. It has a lot of the problems that I have with some of the other Bethesda games.
To Obsidian fans, but they are also outdated by their own design and hands completely of their own making. They're releasing games in 2020.
I honestly, I wish I knew how to make games because I just want to be like, see, I can do it. And these guys just don't know what they're talking about.
That run worse and have less features than games that released in the early 2000s. They've been given every single opportunity and then some to steal the art.
You were like, what, maybe 16 in the early 2000s, assuming you're in your like 30s or something? Like, of course you're thinking it's great when you were like a fucking teenager.
RPG thrown from Bethesda. At this point, Bethesda is sitting in a small room and they're just like sleeping in a chair pretty much. And
Dude,
Obsidian,
if this is him playing, he's missing every shot.
Standing outside of that room with a loaded machine gun with like 12,000 rounds in the clip. And somehow, despite it being the easiest kill possible, Obsidian has pulled that trigger, lost control, and somehow...
I want to make a visual novel at some point. I really want to do that. I think it would be fun.
Tripped and shot themselves to death while Bethesda is just laying there unharmed. Bethesda has continuously won the comparisons and performance.
Bethesda has won on the basis of their size. I think they've really just coasted by on the goodwill they developed with an audience. You know, I think Starfield sold well because people were like, it's a Bethesda game. It's like Skyrim, but in space. And then a lot of people were really disappointed in what they got. I was, and my expectations were in the gutter.
Against Obsidian by quite literally doing nothing.
Best game is Barbie Secret Agent for PC.
At all in return. Forbes reported on Avowed, and the general consensus is that Microsoft is happy with Avowed and how it's performed, and Forbes does make mention that perhaps Microsoft just wants these shorter-made games simply because for Game Pass, it just helps boost their service. But ultimately, I think if we're looking at the core fundamentals of what makes an okay game versus a generational one, Obsidian has yet to make one outside of maybe New Vegas, but that game was made when Chris Avellone, one of the co-founders, still worked there. Now,
what about like Stick of Truth, which is like an amazing Paper Mario-like RPG?
Obsidian is simply a content mill machine.
I don't know. It's not like generational, but why does everything need to be a generational defining piece of art? Like, most games aren't generationally defining pieces of media. You get, like, one Baldur's Gate 3 every maybe, like, 8 years, all right? And that's just how it is. Like, every movie that comes out every year is not the Oscar winner.
Making good to okay games for the purpose to be slapped onto Game Pass, to just keep subscribers happy so that their cycles renew. Maybe that's enough for Microsoft, but I don't personally think you should be looking at Obsidian to ever take the crown from Bethesda anytime soon. Could they one day? Maybe. But I think
this is, like, straight-up Bethesda glazing. I don't know of another way to put this. Like, he really didn't say anything that entire 20-minute video. I'm sorry, chat. I know you don't want to look at the gay and retarded Andy Pants video, but I got to because I feel like I've played enough of this game to make a cogent argument on it. So I am curious. Okay, peak facial. Yeah, that's another thing. I'll be honest. The facial animations in Avowed are bad. I don't think that this is... I think he picked black people on purpose, but... So I gotta, okay. This is a race that's existed in Pillars of Eternity. You can't play as this race. So I don't know why this is here with a player character, which was probably deliberately made ugly. You can only play like a elf or a human. And then you can apply these godlike features on them. In the Pillars of Eternity universe, godlikes are kind of representations of a god. They're chosen by the god when they are reborn, because in the Pillars of Eternity universe, death and rebirth is a true concept that does exist, and they do know about it, right? So everybody knows that when you die, you go to the wheel, and a turn of the wheel is like being reborn, right? So sometimes you get a turn of the wheel, and you're a person who's chosen by a god to represent them on Earth and carry out their will. Sometimes the god will speak to you, sometimes they don't, but usually it comes with powers and it comes with responsibilities. So there, some of the godlike features are kind of gross to look at, but that's the point. That's the point. People respond to you differently. They're like, oh, a godlike. I've never seen one of you. Or like, ew, you're one of those godlikes, right? So people really do respond to how you look. So I just embraced it, and I have like all these like logs and like growths all over my character's face, and I'm just like, whatever. But these two things are completely unrelated, right? Like, this is a player character, this is an NPC, and I don't understand what this race is. They haven't explained it. The Rautai, which are the fish people, are explained really well. But these guys are everywhere, and they're never explained as to what they are, or like who they are, or what their culture's like. And that's really frustrating. And again, I'm like 16 hours deep, and I know that I'm going to get a companion that is like part of this Furby race, but I don't know anything about them. And yeah, they do look really creepy in 3D. I do think they look weird. I think they look weird. They look better in 2D. I've seen them in 2D art, and they look great. But it looks really bad in here. They're like some furry goblinoid race. The hippie chick from the farmer's market who hates Trump. She is not my companion race. She is not my companion yet. I know she's going to be my companion. Her name's like Yahtzee, and she is a whore. That's her character. You meet her, and then your godlike can flirt with her, and she's already flirting. And she guys, I shit you not, one of the first things this tiny lady says is that she's a size queen. She literally says she's like a size queen, and that she has a husband or like a partner, and he has a big penis. All right. And that's one of the first things you learn about her. All right. And all of her shit is about her being a flirt and being a bit of a whore. Right. And that's just her whole character. She's like a ditzy, like la 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 la. Right. That's her character. But she's also a wizard. I need to know more about her. But that's my first experience with her. I don't know where the hates Trump thing comes from. My best example. So there is an order of paladins in the Avowed universe who worship a god of contracts. And I love this idea of the god of contracts because it means that they're very much like you make a deal, they want it enforced, right? They're very much about like enforcing agreements that are made. And so a lot of the people in the Living Lands don't like that because they like contracts, they like order, right? And so the paladins that come over, they're in direct opposition to them because the paladins want to enforce this like really extreme version of order and control. Andy says this because pink hair and nothing else. Yeah. Okay, this guy actually, I don't think he played the game. $80 million budget. Yeah, again, I think the facial animations are definitely lacking. I wish Obsidian would improve that. Where did the money go, guys? These Skyrim comparisons are so fucking infuriating. What's it like being right every single time, Kings? So, like, the entire thing here is that, like, oh, the characters are ugly. But, like, you being ugly is, like, part of the fucking experience.
Every single time. We are batting 1,000. You guys called this one back in November. The developer was hiding pronouns. They were adding gay.
Okay, no. The pronouns thing only shows up in the game if you turn it on. You control the buttons you press, motherfucker. Okay? Nobody uses the pronouns. Everybody refers to you as the envoy if you put that you don't want to use pronouns in the game. Okay? I did not turn on pronouns on my character.
And retarded LGBTQ tags to their Steam discussion page. And then funny enough, a few weeks ago, they had to completely nuke their Steam discussion page because things were becoming too racist. And
it definitely when you say things like F slur, okay? I think that might qualify.
Homophobic. So suffice to say, we saw this dumpster fire coming from a mile away. So as of today, the first review scores are in, and the game is dead on arrival. Not even IGN.
I don't know. I think a 7 out of 10 is pretty reasonable. 7 out of 10 is fine, by the way. I think game reviews have skewed our perception of what these numbers mean. I think numbers are a bad way to describe things anyway, but a 7 out of 10, I think I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. It's not like the best experience I've ever had, but I've been enjoying it. Right? It's an enjoyable game. It's got some bugs. It's got some issues.
And can pretend this game is good, and they gave it a 7.
But have you played it, Andy? No. What a surprise.
Spot gave it a 6. Even the
I think a 7 is fine. I think a 6 is okay. That might be a little low, but like people think if you get a 6 or a 7 on your game, it's a piece of shit.
Ultra Woke the Gamer could barely give this.
Ultra Woke the Gamer. Who the fuck reads these people?
game a 6. It's sitting at an 80 right now on Metacritic.
Okay, so it's sitting at an 8 out of 10 on Metacritic. That's fine.
Can somebody do a wellness check on Paris Lily and Colt Eastwood? One more.
Dude, they got Soy Jack guy in the image and black guy because, you know, Soy Jack and black guy.
Xbox flop, and these guys are going to be on suicide watch. Reviewers are...
You know, I can't imagine being like the dad of a daughter with cancer and then going online and being like, fuck them F slurs. Like, it's just like, I think your priorities should be different. I mean, I guess you got to pay the bills for all the chemo, but like, you know, Jesus.
Avowed is basically if the developers of Concord made an RPG.
It is definitely not that bad. It is definitely like that, not that bad.
Many reviewers are talking about the janky 2004 ass character animations.
That's true. I think the character animations are bad, but can you say anything else?
That look like they just dropped in a stock character from Unreal Engine 3 and ran with it.
All right, that's not that
commenting on the
bad, but it
bland,
is stiff and stilted.
uninspired and ham-fisted dialogue, which no doubt is laden with trans representation and LGBT.
It is not. I've been going out of my way to look for it.
TQ rights, and I feel seen and celebrated now. Thank you.
No, there's not. That doesn't ever come up like that.
Combat also is apparently just incredibly safe, and there's nothing interesting about it. Basic sword, shield, melee combat with magic powers and spells, making...
No, that's actually people not paying attention to how the game works at all. I completely disagree with that criticism that people are bringing up.
this feel like a 25-year-old game. I hope to play this game when it comes out so that I can roast it, but for some reason, Microsoft lost my review copy in the mail. And guys, these bad reviews of the game
I wonder why.
coming from people like me who want woke games to fail. Even gay leftist disciples like Maddie Plays, G-Man Lives, and
Dude, G-Man Lives, woke LGBTQ slop gamer G-Man Lives. The guy just reviewed Haiti, the big tit ass stealth game. Okay, are you? He's the woke in the walls. You are actually 2 IQ Andy.
ACG are saying this game is bad. So that's how you know it's actually really bad.
ACG didn't say it was bad. He said it was okay. I watched ACG's review.
Also, the god-awful art direction in this game. Like, bro, what were they thinking? Who?
Oh my god, this is actually just grifting. That is such a cherry pick. That is such a cherry pick. Hold on, I think I can, let me pull up some footage of me playing Avowed. I'm putting it on the screen right now. That is actually really funny. I love that these guys are just like making it up. That is wild. So I can show you what my character looks like. This is actually one of those scenes that was bugged, right? But I'm talking to Kai, right? Yada yada. But it's like bugged so the audio doesn't work, right? And it was very frustrating. That's what my character looks like, right? He has like a a big like growth of wood on his face, right? Because I was like, ugh, some of these mushroom ones are kind of too freaky for me to look at, and I didn't like it. So I went with the tree one, and I picked an elf. Because I was like, sure. Like, this is just somebody made an ugly character. Like, this isn't, like, a good... Like, this is just an uncharitable criticism. You know? Because you can definitely make an ugly character in Avowed. That's also kind of the point.
Who wants to play the whole game with cordyceps coming out of your...
Yeah, that one was one of the options, too. And that one kind of freaked me out. And I was like, I don't want to pick it. Right?
your forehead the whole game.
Yeah, I get you can turn off the godlike appearance, but people are going to still comment that you look weird, right? And also, the point of this look is intentional with the story and design of the game. Like, it's integral to how the game works. Like, the story wouldn't make sense if you looked normal.
What were they thinking? Who wants to play the whole game with...
Yeah, the thing is, Andy knows what he's doing. He's doing this shit purposefully. Yeah, he definitely, like, this is all deliberate.
cordyceps coming out of your forehead the whole game. The map and all the characters just look very bright and colorful and corny, like some first-year art.
No, so the first area you're in is the bright one, right? The second area you get to is like almost in perpetual darkness. I don't know where that's coming from at all.
Art student made this game. I remember playing Outer Worlds back in 2019, and it's easy to see how this company landed here because I don't.
Outer Worlds had very tiny hub areas, not a true open world game. Yeah, this is not a true open world game either. I don't like everybody making these Skyrim comparisons is like doing the superficial Skyrim stuff, right? When the game is like presenting these like small curated vignettes as you go forward, right? With like a city and then some surrounding like nature, right? And dungeons. And it's like it's very much not like Skyrim.
I don't think Obsidian is a true AAA studio anymore. Outer Worlds was not a big game, and you had like 10 small handcrafted locations that you can basically.
Yeah, that's the point. Well, no exploration. Like these are like you'd have to like these are idiot takes. These are like idiot takes. These are actually stupid takes.
Land at. So instead of making those areas on separate planets, they just put them all together in one area, and voila, now you've got.
Yeah, because if you had like a big open world, it would just be filled with nothing. And I get it. Like some people feel Skyrim is filled with something. Some people feel it's filled with nothing. But there's definitely been this ballooning filled with nothingness that's been happening in games. And I'd much prefer a smaller area that has more tight design than a bunch of like like randomly generated design.
Avowed. But all that to say, this is not a true open world game like Skyrim. This game couldn't hold Skyrim's jockstrap.
Yeah, but like this is actually this is actually kind of funny. This is actually kind of funny. This is such like a stupid argument that like I can tell he's like you can tell he's performatively angry in his like reading of this, right? Like we know he's reading a script, but he's like this is clearly he's being performative.
There are no horses, there are no steeds. You can't head off in a direction.
Yeah, I do wish I either went faster or there was some other means of transportation, because the areas are like smaller than Skyrim, of course. Again, bad comparison, I know. But they're still big enough that I kind of wish I could take like a horse or something. That map looks like it had modded areas. Yeah, that map was also not the original map.
And find miles and miles of quests and interesting stuff.
And also, I don't think Skyrim is filled with miles and miles of interesting stuff. Sometimes you just get kill the bandits mission, and it's boring. But like this is like your penis tiny, my penis big argument.
This game has a ton of claustrophobic tiny spaces with handcrafted content for you to explore, just like the Outer Worlds.
Is this like a sneak advertisement? What is this? Yeah, it has all these tiny spaces that are all handcrafted. None of it is randomly generated. Yeah, it's all handcrafted. That's the point. It's not the entire planet filled with nothing.
So a lot of people are talking about how amateur this game feels, how it feels like a broken AA game instead of a true headlining AAA Xbox.
I do think it's like it feels like I guess yeah. If we're talking like a double, I would call it a AA game, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I like smaller experiences. I don't want a 200-hour RPG where nothing fucking happens. Okay? My problem with all the modern Assassin's Creed games, which I complain about all the fucking time, are that they're humongous open worlds with nothing but fetch quests.
It's exclusive. And guys, isn't it crazy? Because this is exactly what happens when you hire activists to work on your games rather.
What is that? This guy hasn't said anything. And he's just like, the games made the game bad.
Than actually talented people. And we need to look no further than Mr. Matt Hansen himself, the game's art director. He said this in a now infamous tweet. Reminder to black artists out there who are looking for portfolio reviews or job advice. My DMs are open and you will always have my priority. We got too many crusty white dudes in this field. Please let me help you replace me one day. I want to go back to living in the woods. Just
that's that guy spreads his cheeks open, dude. Holy shit. Oh my god. You can be nice to black people without like putting them on a pedestal. That guy is really that like unironically in that guy's attempt to be very inclusive, he's incredibly racist. I know Andy's gonna see that differently, I think that's a bad example of like somebody being woke. Like that's cringe, right? Yeah, cringe. He's not invited to the cookout. Seems like a chaser. Exactly. I think that's the correct take to bring away from that. Dude is a king of spades. Oh my god.
Blatant anti-white racism. Like, imagine going on Twitter and saying, I hate black people and I won't be hiring any of them. Can you imagine the lawsuit that would happen? And yet, do it against white people and you're totally fine. But then, Rutrow, it turns out Matt...
I don't think anybody would be okay with this guy's behavior. I don't see black people don't want to be treated like they're special people. Okay? Jesus Christ.
Called out Elon Musk in particular. Elon Musk then got wind of this tweet and tagged Satya Nadella in it, the CEO of Microsoft. Elon said this, Satya Nadella, this is illegal.
Oh my god. All right. Yeah, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry. Elon Musk should be Luigi posting. Luigi posting. Moving on.
Referring to their discriminatory.
Also, Ian Miles Chong. Luigi posting. Moving on.
Hiring practices. So I was talking with Steven, one of my game developer buddies who works in the industry, and he said it is very very likely that Microsoft has now settled this out of court for an undisclosed amount of money.
What do you mean? What do you mean? We don't even know if it went to court. You haven't proved that this went to court at all. This is just a guy makes a cringe tweet and then Elon Musk tries to get him fired. Who said that this went to court? You just... Like, you're just like, this is just like, you haven't provided any evidence for this.
This is how Microsoft makes PR nightmares go away. Don't talk about them and pay people money to be quiet.
Avowed needed
so I would be very...
this like a fungi. Avowed needed this like a fungi on it. What does that even mean?
Very, very surprised if Matt Hansen has a job at Obsidian beyond February. He also said this about Trump voters. They need to feel the sting of shame for the rest of their putrid lives, to be honest. And that is me being nice.
I mean, you know, he's exercising his right to free speech. It's like cringe and doesn't really do anything for anybody, but like it's his Twitter. Do you want Andy's Ubisoft interview? This is the game dev bud, lol, and totally not just Andy. Sure, send that to me.
This reminded me of a similar tweet from Colby Payne, a creative lead on the new
Gay cuck pretending to be straight. Listen, Andy, you and I both know you like sitting in the cuck chair, okay? I know what your wife looks like, Andy. And it's time for me to bull post. I think she needs some Latino sausage in her life. Call me Andy Pants Gaming's Christian wife. Butt stuff is on the table. God never said anything about that.
Perfect dark game. He said this after Halo released its gay and satanic pride armor. Seeing
gay and satanic pride armor? Yeah, I'll show your wife satanic, Andy. D. Well, like, here's the thing. Why would I ever take somebody like this seriously? You know, like, you can't. I have given so many insane people the charitability of my patience and time, and it's done. Dude, the Satan works in mysterious ways, okay? He's trying to make everybody gay through the game that nobody's playing.
A lot of comments turned off for Pride Month post. I wish all bigots to kindly F off and learn to love others for who.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. These tweets are performative. These tweets are performative and cringe. I know that, right? Because this stuff doesn't do anything for people that are like LGBTQ. It doesn't. We got plenty of people in the audience that are like that. I know that you don't feel changed at all by somebody tweeting in support of your existence, right? That doesn't make actionable change for you. It doesn't do anything, right? What makes change is like actually getting involved in it. Like
who they are. Gaming is for everyone.
Like this guy, like this is another guy where it's like, okay, another ace of spades. Yeah, like dude, if you're queer, Why would you ever want one of your straight friends to come up to you and be like, you're valid and I care about you and you're very special to me and I know things are tough right now, but just know that you're valid. It's like, I'm 30. Like, what are you doing, Jeff? Like, are you gonna buy me my eggs? Is that how you're gonna do? No, but you're valid. I would think they were coming on to me.
Everyone except the bigots. I always want to ask him, pedophiles? Are you saying gaming is for pedophiles?
What? I wish for all bigots to fuck off and learn to love others for who they are. Should we love pedophiles for who they are? He didn't say love pedophiles. Diesel, do a land acknowledgement right fucking now. Okay, unironically, I was on a set one time. This was the only time this happened in my entire career. And they did a land acknowledgement before we did the shoot. And I was sitting there and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, who are they acknowledging this land for? We killed all of them. There's none of them left. Ain't nobody enough around to accept the acknowledgement. Like, it was the weirdest thing. Like, it was really, really weird and really inappropriate. Oh my God. He did the, so you hate pancakes argument. Yeah, he literally did.
Now, Colby, these people are all mostly pedophiles, so that checks out.
That is outrageous. Diesel, Diorio, and Chris live at the same time. We are so blessed. Dude, I gotta fight for my audience now. I gotta be entertaining.
I saw an Instagram video the other day talking about how most conservatives are way more open to being around liberal people than liberal people are tolerant of conservatives.
I think a lot of people are not. I personally, I feel like apathy is much higher these days. I don't really care who I hang out with. I have some conservative friends. I have liberal friends. But if I'm hanging out with somebody and they're just like, I hate them N-words, I'm gonna be like, the fuck? But not on the basis of their politics. All right, horseshoe theory, yada yada.
Which is funny because don't they preach tolerance constantly? And
This is this guy. This is the most like blatant I'm fishing for attention stuff ever. Like, this is as bad as it gets. I've never seen such a blatant fish for attention to like pearl clutch about it. Like he talks about like, this game is gay. Like, Andy, this is gay. Why do you want the attention of all these LGBTQ liberals? Like, what? Why? Like, you're clearly fishing for attention.
and yet are intolerant of anyone who disagrees with them.
Yeah, we gotta call the wambulance for Andy. Oh my god, another bouncing fruit friend done. Oh.
See this played out on Reddit and on X. On Reddit, you can't say anything without some pussy-ass nerd getting their panties in a bunch.
Yeah, but like, it's Reddit. Who cares? And also, who the fuck wants to be on Reddit? Oh, you've been banned from Reddit. Okay, get a life. I'm sorry. Go outside, you fucking loser. Oh no, all your updoots are gone. Wah, wah, wah.
Reddit is the home of the degenerate incel who eventually starts wearing women's clothes.
Yeah, because 4chan has no people pink pilling. Yeah. Because there's just no base trans people on 4chan. Sure.
Meanwhile, on X, there's much less censorship, and you can mostly say...
Yeah, meanwhile, on X, there's much less censorship. Yeah, but the thing is you don't say anything profound with your lack of censorship. You just say, oh, I hate them gays, right? And like, whatever, sure, I guess I don't really care. Go ahead, say you hate the gays. I think, it's whatever. But like, the second I say that we should Luigi post Elon Musk, all of a sudden I get banned. All right, so let's not talk about X being the free speech platform when it's free speech for saying the N-word and not free speech for saying that you should place a cocktail of dubious substances inside the dairy aisle because eggs are $14 fucking dollars. Wait, so Andy has a kid that's sick with cancer, or did I hear that wrong? No, his daughter has cancer, yes. Andy, I think your channel makes too much money for you to be doing a GoFundMe for your kid's cancer treatment. I think that's inappropriate, and I think when people make enough money for a living, that they shouldn't fish for free money from their family and friends. I think that's really cringe, actually, okay?
What you want to say, because X is the home of GigaChads.
Yeah, X is the home of GigaChats. You are soy. This is so soy. Also, we know what Andy is using Twitter for, lol. Shout out to Atomic Bottom. I don't remember what Atomic Bottom is, KJ.
Brads and Chads like us don't get upset when people disagree with us.
No, I think you do. I think you do. I think you get very upset. You literally did get upset in this video. You're lying. You're lying. Tell me where your wife is. I want to have consensual sex with her.
And we don't think anybody should be censored from saying what they want to say. Liberals in America have become the party of censorship.
That is a European officer. That is a British officer. Liberals in America agree with us and be thrown in jail. Not American police. Conservatives America, as long as you're not physically attacking someone, say what you want. I don't think conservatives are like that anymore. I think they might have been like that a few years ago, but I don't think it's like that anymore.
Conservatives, oddly enough, have become the party of letting people say what they want to say. But getting back to Avowed, Sungran
This entire video has just been you lying.
Studios did a really good deep dive on Carrie Patel, the game's director, and he brought up a great point. She's a diverse...
That guy is also a grifter, right? I thought he was he's like some character designer, right? But then he like actually is just using that to complain about woke as well, right? Which is really annoying, right? Because I think there's a lot of things you could complain about with like Concord's designs, and that's how he got his start. But then most of it has just been him bitching and moaning about the woke.
Diversity hire with no experience. So basically, she was a writer on the Outer Worlds. She was a writer on an Outer Worlds DLC. She was writer on Pillars of Eternity. What?
It's almost like she would know the universe when she was instrumental in the creation of it. Womp womp.
A writer on Pillars of Eternity, and then she got promoted to being the director of Avowed. Right?
Doesn't that make sense? Why wouldn't you make her the director? She has experience.
Is a completely different skill set than producing and creating a video game. To make a video game, you have to understand a lot of different things.
Good game directors like Jason West, Call of Duty 2009, understand the tech inside and out.
Coding languages, Unreal Engine, dedicated servers, production and animation pipelines. And the best video games have people at the top of their game who know how to make these things sing and work together. So it's very likely Avowed is such a disaster because the director has no idea how to make video games. I'm a bit iffy on what a director does for a video game. I'll say that. But if they're in charge of the creative vision of what the game is, and the person who is the creative visionary director on Avowed is the writer for Pillars of Eternity, I think they would be qualified. Meanwhile, you have a director like Todd Howard. Up until Starfield, the dude was pretty much batting 1,000. And this is...
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, Terminator Future Shock really stands the test of time. All right? If this wasn't so ridiculous, I would assume that like this is all like a weird like 4D chess game by fucking Bethesda.
Because he started making video games back in 1995. Check out his first video game. It looked like this. So again, diversity hires, activists.
Another game ruined by diversity hires and activists. Yeah, Baldur's Gate is fucking phenomenal. Walking Dead Telltale is fine. I don't know what this is. Last of Us 2 I haven't played, so I can't give an opinion on it. And then that is the new Life is Strange character, which I also haven't played, but I've never seen Life is Strange as like the pillar of writing. It's more like junk food type. I like Euphoria, you know, but it's like that.
A focus on inclusiveness and diversity rather than a focus on
yeah, that's really funny when you have Asterion in the background, buddy.
Good games. It goes down the same way every time. But of course, the blame for all of this goes back to woke central itself, Microsoft. This satanic LGBTQ slop.
I unironically wish that there was like a secret cabal of Satanist people ruling the world. And first of all, I just want to say, if this is a secret society and you've decided to worship Satan by making bad video games, I think you guys really need to prioritize what you're doing, because you're like there are easier ways to make the world gay and worship Satan than make video games that only a few 100,000 people buy. But like, what?
Is pumped into every game by Microsoft, and I have devoted my YouTube channel to
This is really funny. This is really funny. Microsoft, Sony, BlackRock. Okay, I talked about this before. I talked about this on Chud's stream. Chud brought up the BlackRock thing. And so I'll talk about it again. Okay, so the BlackRock thing is a conspiracy theory. The idea is that BlackRock is funding LGBTQ activism with the intent to turn people gay. Part of the New World Order conspiracy theory. Part of this originates from the fact that Jews invest, and so Jews run BlackRock. So this is a secret JQ question thing, right? But what BlackRock was talking about in that keynote, where they are saying that they're funding or investing in more woke stuff, was them talking about rainbow capitalism, right? The reasoning for doing this was that there's a new portion of wealthy people in America and the world over, really, aside from America, right? So there's a new portion of wealthy people. Those wealthy people are gay. They want the gay people's money, so they started a ETF that they felt that gay people would be interested in, so they would invest money with BlackRock. But yeah, so like this is like the BlackRock stuff is just a JQ. The noses is a very obvious JQ.
to burning these people down and burning every game they make down. Because this garbage is satanic and it is a blight on Western civilization.
So, okay, so let me actually engage with this in a way that is not me saying that I should fuck your wife. If there is a satanic underbelly that is conspiring to overthrow Western society, one, that would require a lot of people involved, okay, which is again, I think a very good indictment against stuff like Flat Earth. The more people involved in a conspiracy, the less likely it is to be true. Let's say there is. If you are a satanic cult, why are you going to try and ruin Western society by making video games bad? Wouldn't you want to make being gay enticing? You know, people talk about the Antichrist, and part of what makes the Antichrist so powerful in the Bible is that the Antichrist is a lot like Christ. The Antichrist heals people. It soothsays. It talks about how many good things they can do, right? And that's how the Antichrist and Satan corrupts people to the side of evil, is by being good. That's why people say Mr. Beast is Antichrist, because he heals people, because he acts nice. Like the biblical depictions of how Satan corrupts people is not through stuff that sucks. It's through stuff that's great. Like, I mean, I guess you could use Baldur's Gate as an example of that, because it's actually great. But like, if Avowed sucks and Avowed is bad, nobody's going to play it. So it's kind of a waste for Satan to do that. Wouldn't Satan want to corrupt people through things that are like, you know, good? The devil tempts you, yeah, with what you want. Yeah. I honestly don't even know if this guy's read a Bible. I'm not a religious person. I find religion very fascinating. So I just think it's very strange that his belief is antithetical to how Satan works as a idea.
In case you forgot, Microsoft has product inclusion requirements for everything they make. Let's read some of them. Are you unnecessarily introducing gender and gender barriers into your code or design? Are you creating playable female characters that are equal in skill and ability to their...
It's anti-male, anti-white, anti-religion. So giving the choice between men and women characters is the equivalent of being anti-men? You control the buttons you press.
male peers? Are your female characters equipped with clothing and armor that fits their task? Do they have exaggerated body proportions?
I think like this is part of this does play into like inclusion thresholds that games have to meet, which I do think can be a problem, right? So I could see how this could become a problem where you tokenize people to hit quotas, right? But like, then don't make a game like that.
When the story allows, do you show male characters who display a full range of emotions, including joy, sadness?
It's anti-Western civilization. I also don't know if these guys know what Western civilization is. If we talk about the cradle of Western civilization being antiquity in Rome and Greece, all of the most famous Greek philosophers and warriors were also like, you know, philosophers. You know, like we could read Marcus Aurelius's personal journal and understand how he's experiencing joy, sadness, and vulnerability. You know? Are you really out here with your nuanced takes? Yeah, I should just say that I'm going to fuck his wife again, huh? But it's just, I'm trying to... Listen, I'm mogging on him with my sheer brain power.
And vulnerability. Guys, all of this gay-ass nonsense is why video
game crash has already begun, and a few companies will survive.
games are trash now. But really, all of this stuff goes back to the noses.
If you don't like video games... Wow, okay, never mind. All right, it all goes back to the noses. I understand that you're like the gaming YouTuber guy, but like if you don't like video games, don't force yourself to play it. Like you seem like, even if you do enjoy games, this guy seems like he's miserable, so why does he keep playing them? Go read a book. The common argument these days with blaming the fall of Roman Empire was when they started mass immigration due to that xenophobic dead guy that wrote a book about how much he hated the Jews. The fall of the Roman Empire was incredibly nuanced and complicated. And then also, the Roman Empire in Italy died, but the Eastern Roman Empire continued to flourish for thousands of years. So, like, did Rome truly fall, or did it just, like, move its business elsewhere? You know what I mean?
And it's because they hate white men. They hate Christianity.
Also, if I was a Satan cult, I think I would want white men on my side. I just, you know, it would just be easier. It all goes back. Also, why are the Jews in line with Satan? The Jews have been historically anti-Satan. In fact, Jesus Christ was the Jew. I don't know if you knew that. One of the most famous Jews actually was Jesus Christ.
They hate religion. I wouldn't be surprised if all of the senior leadership at Microsoft were pedophiles because they are so...
Oh my God, how's this guy not been drone striked by Bill Gates? That's insane.
So heavily invested in by BlackRock, and we know that the noses run BlackRock. Check this.
We know that the nose... See what I mean?
This out. BlackRock just launched a $30 billion investment with Microsoft. So guys, this...
Okay, but yeah, there was a $30 billion investment for like...
Check this out. BlackRock...
AI fund to invest in data centers because everybody thinks AI is the next internet. I mean, that's not like a gay investment. That's just like an investment.
BlackRock just launched a $30 billion investment with Microsoft. So guys, this game is going to crash and burn, but we need to stay united in the next 12 months in banning all of these other games this year as well.
Banning, wow. Dude, guys. Dude, these are just like SJWs for the right wing. These are literally SJWs for the right wing. Like, that's it. Holy shit.
Avowed, South of Midnight, Atomfall, depending on how woke it is. Assassin's
Atomfall. I just want somebody to define to me what woke is. The woke right?
Q's Hood Ornament celebrates 15 months of membership, the woke right.
Yeah, banning things I don't like. Well, so much for being a free speech warrior. Yeah, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Alright, so based on my understanding, anything he doesn't like is evil and somehow Jewish. Yes. I really want to have, like, I really just want to know what it is to be woke. Like, nobody ever defines it. It's just such an analogous thing. Like, I want to know. I want to understand what it is to be woke, gay, and disabled.
Creed Shadows is coming out in about a month. Clockwork Revolution will most likely be woke. Fable 4 will most likely be woke.
If you don't like video games, why do you talk about video games?
On the Sony side, Ghosts of Yotei. We have to boycott it. It's going to be woke as hell. And of course, Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet, made by Nose Neil Cuckman himself.
Nose. Just say Jew. Just say Jew. You're not hiding it.
It's going to be the most woke garbage you've ever seen. All these games are made by woke LGBTQ activists, and the only way they will learn is if we boycott these games completely. And just in closing here, it's actually a huge bummer to me that Avowed ended up being such woke slop. Go back and look at the 2020 trailer.
You haven't played it.
For this game, and it looked dark and gritty as hell. The CRP.
Honestly, I wasn't gonna buy most of these anyway. Not enough screaming and explosions, and Expedition 33 is trying way too hard to riff on Persona's combat. But now I have to buy them.
RPG prequel to this game, Pillars of Eternity, was actually pretty dope and dark and gritty as hell.
I don't think you actually played Pillars.
Crowdfunded back in 2015. But it's just such a shame that they went in this incredibly gay and retarded direction with Avowed. But when you have a bunch of woke activists working at your company, this is
I don't think you played Pillars at all.
I'm out.
Like Pillars, I'm going to play Pillars, and I'm pretty sure Pillars is gonna touch on the same topics that Avowed has. I can't even like be mad. It's just like weird. It's just weird pearl clutching.